Welcome back, of course, to Sports Check right here on KBC Channel 1. And as I did mention at the beginning of the show, 8th March, of course, we celebrate women all over the world. It's Women International Day. And in that regard, in studio, we're joined by a sports journalist, a journalist, Shon Osimbo. Once again, not a strange face to most of you, of course, depending on where you saw her. But thank you very much, Shon. And I would like us, of course, to appreciate the little steps that, because I say little because there's still much that needs to be done, which of course I'm seeing you really eager to talk about. But first of all, maybe just a message, of course, to fellow women out there as we celebrate this day, taking into account what we've achieved, what we are yet to achieve briefly.
Yeah, so I think it's a wonderful day to always celebrate this when it comes to women, but also, as you say, celebrate the steps that have been taken. I think the world is a better place with women now stepping up to the plate and, getting into leadership positions, steering the wheels in different categories when it comes to sports. So it's a wonderful day to also appreciate that and also talk more about what needs to be done to actually help women and improve the environment to make women leadership prosper. So, yeah.
Okay.
I celebrate all the women out there, starting with my own mom. Yes.
Of course, happy Women's Day, everyone out there. And now, Shon, maybe let's get right into it. Maybe looking back at the far we've come in sports, especially since, well, it's a sports show, obviously. What are the achievements you can say that we can take into stock and say that women have actually been given a chance, an equal chance, or equally chance to maybe achieve something, maybe?
Yeah. Before I get down to the legends, of course, we'll talk about the women legends. I feel like the best point to start is yes, the Ministry of Sport. Of course, it's being led by a woman, which is powerful in its sense. That is Ambassador Amina Mohammed. So that is powerful in its own way to have a woman leader there. So she definitely understands what we women want. She definitely understands the different things that women need when it comes to different sports. And even from that, through her leadership and also other women leaders, you can see now at least you can talk about women athletes, you can talk about women footballers, which has been amazing. I'm also a huge fan of football, definitely. Right now, it's a good conversation where we talk about Harambee Starlets, so that is a plus for us when it comes to volleyball. Malkia strikers always bringing glory to the country. So I think it's a very good position to be in. So that is the first part I'll start when it comes to appreciating women from the top leadership position, which is the Ministry of Sports, led by Ambassador Amina Mohammed.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what are the areas maybe that we can look at, what you can actually mention, because there are a lot of topics in regards to how far women have come till now. We can talk about top positions in leadership. We can talk even about the managerial positions, of course, since it's kind of a ladder, obviously, because when this happened, people were being, it starts down here. You're given an equal opportunity as a fellow man, of course, to achieve something. You can be a manager, you can be head of a federation. So maybe in especially what field, because you've done, you've identified, of course, football, a football team, maybe, basically those are athletes. But let's talk about leadership, maybe. What can you say has been the thing you can look at mostly and say, that we've really come from far in regards to that? Yeah.
So I think I'll use examples because it's easier. Today, I really want to appreciate Tegla Lorupe. I know people would ask why Tegla Lorupe, but I think Kenya, we need to do more when it comes to appreciating women legends. But let me talk about Tegla Lorupe's journey. When she was young, she used to run 20 kilometers to school and then 20 kilometers back home. And then she ended up being a big name. I remember when being young, when you'd see Tegla Lorupe on the lineup, you'd just relax. You know she's going to win. She became the first African woman to win a marathon. She won the World Half Marathon 3 times. She also became the first African woman to win the New York City Marathon. And then she didn't stop there. She came back home. And so many people, wakienda maju, they disappear there. She came back home and she decided, you know what, I'm not just going to sit. I'm going to help champion for women's rights. So she has a very good record of what she's doing for women and young girls, and this in terms of education, at the same time, you know, identifying your talent, especially if you have that athletics talent, if you can be a good runner. And then she didn't stop there. She, you know, in 2016, the first refugee, she gave hope to refugees. The first refugee team appeared at the Olympics, and it was so powerful. But you see, I feel like we didn't celebrate that much because it was led by a Kenyan. It's her simple connection to Thomas Bach, the IOC guy, the IOC head. Just that, she put it on the table. And I remember even last year, I think the UN named her as the ambassador. They appreciated her for being the Kenyan ambassador, and it was, you know, she's an ambassador for peace, for women's rights, for education. I think that is a huge example of what a woman can do in society. And to top that all up, the refugees were training here in Kenya. That is the beauty. So she's giving people from, I remember there were athletes from South Sudan, there were athletes from Congo, who have been affected by war. You know, people who had lost hope, but they love watching Olympics on TV. She gave them that dream. And that is a woman. We're talking about Tegla Lorupe. I wish we would talk about her story more, how she came back home and actually helped people. So today, I really want to celebrate her because I think it's easier to use her example, what she has achieved. And then she came back home, she invested, and she's doing all this without the government's help, which I think is very powerful still. So I think they were training in Ngong, I remember. Yes, in Ngong, the refugees. And it was just nice to see, you know, her being there. And I remember talking to some of the refugees and how they were talking about the story now. That comes to her story. She tells the story of running 20 kilometers to school and 20 kilometers back home. So she talks about that, and it's very powerful. And that's what the refugees actually take from her story. They say, you see what, when we look at Tegla and when she tells us her story, she came from a humble background. She actually made it, and then she came back to help people. And she's still continuing with these peace efforts. Of course, I know COVID-19 affected so much, but she's continuing with these peace efforts, championing for women's rights. And the beauty about also women, we just don't want to champion for women's rights too. Looking at even Tegla, when it came to the refugee team, it was both men and women. So that was also powerful. We just don't want to be, we can't empower one side and forget the other. That's the beauty of being a woman. We have to uplift all people in society, because when it comes to bringing people in the world, we don't choose if it's a man or a woman. Yes, so that is beautiful from Tegla, and I think today she's one of the people I actually appreciate on the continent. I think her story is very powerful, and of course there are many more I can talk about. I can talk about Doreen Abwire also, you know, being the first Kenyan woman to go abroad, you know, for that women professional side, all the way to Germany and, you know, Netherlands, and then coming back home being the deputy competitions manager for FKF, and also just, you know, now they're the ones who are ensuring we can actually see what is happening with the Women's Premier League. At least we can even talk about it. You know, a few years ago, we couldn't talk about it. So it's very powerful to see what definitely also Doreen Abwire has done for the young ladies. She's the one who has encouraged them, and to have so many Harambee Starlets ladies actually flying out. I'm also on the board for the Akakoro Football Academy, and it's just beautiful to see how our girls are performing, and it just makes me happy and excited. We even have 3 of them. They're actually going to the US for scholarship, and you know, it's exciting, just the power. You know, what we do is just send these clips abroad, and they like it, and they're given a scholarship. And it's so easy. I'm telling people, if you invest in your ladies, if you invest in the young girls, if you invest in your women, you'll definitely see something, because it's beautiful. But for me today, above all, I want to celebrate Tegla Lorupe. Yes.
It's actually quite sad that, you know, it's only on certain days that we get to actually, you know, sit back and, you know, look back and say, actually she has done a lot for this country. Because arguably Tegla Lorupe is, I can say arguably she's the athlete who has done the most, who has given back to society the most. Because even besides athletes, she actually helps out some boxers, upcoming boxers, so in Kaongore, a couple of gyms. So congratulations, of course, to Tegla. We do celebrate you. And basing off of the example of Tegla Lorupe, would you say, because Tegla has never really been, let's say, a federation head, you know, a vice chairman, a federation, does it mean that sometimes we overlook some of the simple things you can do just by giving back to society, not just being at the top of federation and, you know, that's the only time you can do something for for the country or for women?
I think it's a Kenyan thing that's supposed to change. It's actually a very important point you're actually raising. Kenyans have this mentality, not all of them, most Kenyans have this mentality that before they do anything or help the society, they have to be in a position of power, which I think is not the case. That is the thing. I feel like you can make change from wherever you are. You can make your change. You can make your change as Munga here on the desk, because it's you realize around us there's always something you can do. Yeah. Yes, and I feel like that is what Tegla saw. She said, okay, I have the name, I have achieved, and you know her name was like, I remember she held the marathon record. It was from 1998 to 2001. Like she has all the records, she has the name. So instead of just, she has a very beautiful farm, I know, in Shag. So instead of just coming back to the farm in Shag, she said, oh, let me do more. Because the moment you become a top athlete, a top, footballer, you get to mingle with these people.
That's true.
So and I love the fact that she never shies away from saying, you know what, I know IOC's head, that is Thomas Bach. They have conversations, they talk. So she took that step upon herself without the government, without any position. And then she went, I remember I watched an interview where now the UN were talking about Tegla, and they were talking about she went to the UN and said, I have this thing with the refugees, can we do this together? And I'm going now to bring the UN together with IOC together, and then we do something unique. And that is how the refugee team came about. Simple, simple and powerful. She used what she had in her hand. So I think we Kenyans are supposed to learn from her. We are supposed to use what we have. You don't have to have a position of power. There are people in the border industry who have made it. Even when you go out there and see the women who are conductors out there, it's also still powerful. They have used whatever they're using in their spaces to make an impact in the society.
Amen to that. Of course. And just because, of course, we're talking about the fact that people can actually do something. You can leave a mark. You can be influential. You can support something from, outside a position of power. That, of course, does not take away from the fact that people have been fighting for equal representation. Well, there have been steps that have been taken in regards to that. Even the Olympics, obviously, we have more slots for, for women now in different sports disciplines. So maybe we can talk about that. And looking from, because a while back, early 1940s, you've read about the history of the Olympics. There was a time that you only had 10 women participating.
Yes.
So maybe you can talk about that. How do you think that is going to maybe inspire more women to be interested, even in sports, really, not only sports management? So maybe you comment on that.
Yeah. Of course, through other women who've broken barriers, like the likes of Tegla, I'll go back to her story because when you listen to her, when you talk to her, she also talks about how in the village, being an athlete was people like, okay, you're supposed to go get married, but she still followed her dream. So the fact that she followed her dream, I think it's enough encouragement for so many women to just, I know there are so many noises coming from all sides, but from a story, if you focus and you decide on what you want, I feel like going forward, and we thank God for even the position right now that women can freely now compete, and we hope this can be across the world, because now it's affected by so many things. In Africa, it's more of the cultural side. In the Arab land, it's more of the religious side. So all those barriers, how we can break them in a good way, without also offending people at the same time. Because right now, I know in Tegla's village, they are actually appreciating her, and you can see what has happened in Iten, Elgeyo Marakwet, Uasin-Gishu, how now everyone,
even the naysayers now supporting her.
And it's so beautiful, like when you wake up in the morning there, how everyone is always running. It's one of the most, and it's not about men or women, it's literally everyone, young, old. It's so beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful things to see in Kenya. But you see, that is the power of women focusing like Tegla and going ahead and achieving their dreams and encouraging the generations behind us. So I think 5-10 years from now, it will be equal, half-half, I don't think we'll even be talking about equality. We'll be talking about your talent, And you also have even the likes of Serena Williams, abroad, oh my goodness, you can imagine what she has gone through from the racism and, even being told every day you look like a man, but you still have to go on every day. Her trying to come back after getting her daughter and, what she has to go through. And, media on the other side is crazy, the paparazzi. But the fact that the women abroad, they can still wake up, the likes of Megan Rapinoe, the US footballer. And they can still continue to do what they love and also achieve so much at it. Thank God for the digital age. Even anyone now in Kakamega, if they have a phone and they have internet, they can always catch that news, any lady, young girl, and get encouraged from it. So we are seeing a very big shift. I hope we move away from the equality. Now it's just, are you good? Can you do it? Can you deliver?
Exactly.
That's it, yes.
Okay, of course, we've talked about the positives, but then again, everything with the positive side has a negative side. So maybe what are some of the areas in sports that you feel inclusivity of women has been lacking? I know there are quite many, but maybe the top ones, maybe that you yourself can be more, more concerned with.
Yes. I think in the sports leadership, it's still lacking, despite the Minister of Sports being a lady. I think everything is still lacking in leadership. There are not so many women who hold top leadership positions. But when you dig deeper and when you're now doing a story, that's when you realize the woman is behind the scenes in these federations. You know, the women are running up and down to make sure some of these federations are actually running and people are making it. And also there's still this, I think, the cultural barriers, where people say, like, the boxing federation has to be led by a man, you understand? But women can box too, and I think we've had women who've brought so much. Actually, when it comes to boxing, we've had them, top women who've brought so much joy to the country. And, like Zarika,
Exactly. Conjestina.
Yes, Mama Yao.
Exactly.
I know.
Elizabeth Ongeri.
I know.
She was here recently.
It's so exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you see, I feel like, if you give Zarika the boxing federation, okay, it's like politics, but you understand they have brought so much attention, joy to the Kenyan boxing. So I think we need to move away from some federations are supposed to be headed by men. I think so. In the sports leadership, I think that is still lacking, and I hope we can definitely the federations can embrace that also women can lead, and they can also go to women for advice. It's not just about you can go to women for advice and stuff like that. So that is in the sports leadership. Anyway, in the sports, women also where I think it's still lacking is in terms of inclusivity. Where else? Apart from leadership, I think leadership can change so much, yeah? I
was actually waiting for you, since you mentioned Megan Rapinoe, to, of course, talk about that issue.
Yes. So just stay in the leadership. Because I feel like also in the leadership and also just, that cultural thing where when it's a woman talking, people just look away. I think the moment we embrace when, women have wisdom, uko nje. If you look even at some of these political leaders behind them, they're very powerful women, So when that woman is speaking and they're addressing you and they're giving you advice, I think we can start from there. Just try and listen. You never know what you learn from it. I think that's also just, breaking those cultural barriers that in certain when organizations or in certain meetings that it's only the men who are supposed to be talking, and you, the woman, nyamaza kapo. There's also that. I think we need to move away from that.
Okay. And now, of course, you've talked about the leadership issue, but those are the issues that we are facing. Yeah. But how can we change that? Because we can't always be complaining about these things. We have conversations about
and complain.
Exactly. But what do you think are some of the initiatives or steps that need to be taken to at least achieve parity to some extent? To a point that others will see, hey, actually this works. Yeah. You can actually adopt that. Yeah.
So I think what we can do, and it's not bad to borrow a leaf when it comes to most federations abroad. And sometimes I talk to Mary Kokulensen. She joined FIFA the other day, and she's also she's part of an important part when it comes to the Dutch FA. That is where VVD come from, and Wijnaldum and Memphis Depay. But
Midema. Midema. We're talking about women. So
and Midema, yes.
Arsenal's Midema, of course, for the women's team.
What she says is that abroad, they have had to put, policies and set some guidelines and rules. And I think that is what Kenya is lacking. We haven't set, like now, when we hold federation elections, we need to stop with this kakiti kamoja for the woman,
That is true.
You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can actually just, make it certain that, we're going for the elections. This is what we're expecting. On this, sorry, on this board that we have 15 people, can we at least make sure 6 or 7 are actually women. You understand? So I think that is a step, and that has to be, written down when it comes to the federation policies, guidelines, and rules. That is a step where we can start from, instead of just talking and complaining. Because as you said, we are done complaining. It's getting tired. It's so tiring to complain all the time. Yeah. So can we at least now, put what we are saying onto, pen to paper, and, you have to sign. So from there now, when the elections are being held, you'll start seeing the change. You'll start, and I'm so sure when it comes to the women in federations and all these places, they are going to choose the best. They're going to choose the best. They're going to choose the ones who have gone through it, who have experienced it, and who have actually brought change about. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's the most contentious issue that you are obviously avoiding, but we have to talk about it because it's the one thing besides leadership of women, of course, women in sports leadership positions. Besides that, there is the other issue that really has been, dividing people, to say the least. I'm talking about when it comes to football or any other sport, really. It's basically all sports, because I'm talking about the issue of equal pay in sports, which you were trying to avoid, because I think it's an issue. Obviously, I'm not at liberty to talk about my personal beliefs here, but just looking at it from the outside, how important is it for both people, both sets of, debaters, really? You have the women arguing this, you have the men arguing this, but then again, are we going to find a solution to that? If maybe, because some say, oh, there are factors that should be considered. Again, this side might argue sponsorship issues, marketing issues, and this other side may argue, what's the sense of looking at all those factors, considering we're the one making the country proud? Because even in the case, because that came up, during the World Cup, I'm talking about the US women's team. But then again, look at it critically. Even here in Kenya, Malkia strikers, for how long have they been? You do understand my point. So I need your opinion on that.
Yeah. I know we've talked about this before, equal pay, and it's so sad we are still talking about it. But I think both men and women should be paid equally. Like that's what I push all the time. I know there are all these factors and I'll come to it. But let's say Harambee Stars and Harambee Starlets. We're just going to use that major example. When it comes to the allowances, let's say both of them are taking part in the different set of the Africa Cup of Nations, Africa Cup of Nations and the Africa Women's Cup of Nations. When it comes to the allowances, can they be the same?
Yes. Can
this captain be paid the same as that captain? You understand?
Yeah.
You understand? We're not talking about, here we're not talking about sponsorship yet or anything yet. Of course there are companies coming on board.
Exactly.
But the basic pay, the allowances, can they be the same for Harambee?
The ones that are not, of course, factored in by those other issues.
There's something the government gives and there's something the federation gives. That money, can it be the same when they go out there? If these guys from Harambee Stars are taking home 40,000 a day when they are in camp, can Harambee Stars take 40,000 a day when they're also in camp? And when they play and they win a match and everyone is given like 60,000, can also this other side. Now that the basic pay should be equal. Now when it comes now to the sponsorship, let's say now when Harambee Stars were going to the Africa Cup of Nations and you have all these betting companies who are fighting over them and coming, now that is a different story. You understand? Now that is where now you can call it the bonuses. You understand? So the bonuses can be different, but that which is coming from the government and the federation, if they have something on their side, that is if they're making money, I don't know, can it be the same for both men and women? I think that is what most women in the world are asking for.
Okay.
Yes.
And it really comes to mind that it should not only be about equal pay. Of course, we have developing, let's say, talent, because you do find that most places you find that, this one's focused mostly on let's say the boys instead of the girls. So maybe those are the issues that maybe I wanted you to put out there.
Even most football academies, actually they need to change that in Kenya. Most football academies have put so much attention on when it comes to the boys it's not a bad thing, but
isn't it about interest also?
But the girls are also doing it. Like, I've seen it at Akakoro Football Academy. We decided to venture out. You know, the girls, even some of them go to the national team, Harambee Starlets, way faster than how the boys. Do you know how to get your boy right now to the national team, how good, really good he is? Because the pool is really wide. Yeah. So for us, it has really worked for us at the Akakoro Academy, and nearly said national, Akakoro Academy. It has really worked, and some of the girls are even traveling because of this. And we have also, of course, the boys are doing major, because a few years back, they traveled abroad and they beat the likes of Real Madrid Academy, Atletico Madrid Academy. So yes, but I think like if we invest in both, you see now we are winning on both sides. When these boys travel, they go show those academies abroad that, you know, there's this small academy in Kenya which is doing it big. And when these girls go, some of them are in the national team. And we also have one of the administrators who's also still the assistant coach in the national team, that is Jacqueline Juma, also to be celebrated. She has done a lot for the girls at Akakoro. She also coaches them. And you see that. So we are winning on both sides when it comes to that academy. So I'm just saying, I'm also asking the other academies, just try and invest in the ladies. You don't have to win on one side. You can actually win on both sides.
Kind of reminds me of when we have the HSBC World Rugby. You have the Shujaa men, of course, winning on this side, and then the Lionesses on the other side, also winning.
Also winning, yes.
When Shujaa loses, we switch focus to the, to the Lionesses.
And I think it's beautiful having hopes on both sides, you know, even if Shujaa let us down, Lionesses watatubeba, and also like Shujaa watatubeba. I think, rugby, actually, yes. Rugby,
we need options.
Yes, we can also celebrate KRU for that. Yes, we can also celebrate KRU for that. Though I know there's still issues there also. Pay. But I think they have done also good marketing when it comes to also the Lionesses. Marketing is actually an issue. So there are people who have both teams. You know, you have the, Shujaa, and then you have Lionesses, but then you see maybe one side is being given more attention than the other side. But when it comes to KRU, Lionesses get that equal marketing, same as, that hype, same as also Shujaa. So I think that is, so also people, the marketing part, equally please.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, of course, as we approach, winding up the topic for today, this conversation for today. The theme for the International Women's Day 2021 is, of course, women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. So I need your last remarks to be in regards to the opportunities, because everyone, even the conversation we had with Ronald Accord in my first interview, my earlier segment, we were talking about how the COVID situation, of course, it's a bad thing. The pandemic has really shut down the world. But then again, it has come with some of the, it has come with some of the, at least, because for him, he sat down and, strategized, and it has been paying off. So maybe basing your closing remarks on this, women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world, maybe. What are the chances, especially at this point in time, that we can take to, push for equality, of course, even as we celebrate women in our lives today?
Yeah. The thing with COVID-19, even when it started, for me, it hit me so hard. But I realized COVID was supposed to change our hearts, change our thinking. This is for both men and women. Change our thinking and change how we go about our day-to-day lives. But also, COVID provided an equal opportunity and equal ground for both genders. That is the beauty of COVID. Both of us can work from home if we have to work from home. You understand? You've seen so much. So I think also because of that, people being in their also chilled environments. I was reading the other day, there are actually companies that have made it, and they have made so much money during this COVID season because of just people being chilled, people being relaxed. They have their families around and delivering. And I can imagine that for, actually, we've even just remembered one of my very close friends who, because of COVID, she had to sit home with a newborn baby. And when the boss the other day was reading these targets for her, she was so shocked that she had achieved so much. That maternity period was not 3 months. Of course, because of COVID, And because of having a young one, most companies were excusing you from coming back. So, you know, most women have gotten to take care of their babies, especially if you actually brought new life to the world last year, for more than 7 to 8 months, which has been beautiful, because when you see the targets, it's amazing. So that is what also, when you create a conducive environment for women, what we can achieve and what we can do for companies. So in terms of leadership, I think leadership is not about, I think we also have to move away from that mentality. It's not about talking too much and carrying a briefcase and going to work and coming back home late. I think that is old school. It's just about having a good environment, even during this COVID-19 pandemic, a good environment. Make sure your employees, make sure the people in sports are actually comfortable and they can keep it moving, they can work, they can keep it moving. So I think it has been good.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, the virus itself, of course, it's not, because so many people have lost people, but I think we should see past the virus and we should take, and also so many ideas. You know how the digital age has grown. You've seen how, the same thing I'm saying, there's so many companies which are also have so many women leaders, like TikTok, how they have grown during this COVID.
It's actually weird, but
yeah. You understand? Like, it's amazing, this digital age. And then through this, did you see the webinars? The amount of information that was going across. Like right now, if I want to attend a webinar, you know, people used to think it's a seminar, you have to get on a plane, fly all the way to New York. It has changed.
You have Zoom.
Yes, like, I need people to join Clubhouse. There you actually sit. I was the other day in a webinar sort of, where we were just talking to other women in sports, and they're talking and they're giving their experiences. You have someone from New York, you have someone from Istanbul, you have someone from Cape Town. It's the most beautiful thing there. And then when you say, I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, everyone's like, oh, Kenya. No, it's so beautiful, because you're also marketing your country, but at the same time, you're learning a lot. So for me, I chose to see COVID from the other side, and I think most companies, they have no choice but to shift those dynamics and embrace technology, embrace learning on the internet, embrace getting to know new people and what they do. And I think also now, the good thing about women, you know, we can multitask, so we can be there learning, we can be there taking that information, we put it in what we love doing. That's what I do all the time for myself. If I want to learn something, I go to the internet, I'm reaching out to people on LinkedIn, I'm talking to everyone, and just, you know, every day, I always say it's a learning experience, and I think that is the beauty of leadership.
Well, I think I couldn't have put it any better, especially in the leadership bit. Women inclusivity, of course, in leadership, and not only in sports, really. Even, exactly, be it in politics, be it in business, everything technically. And thank you very much, Shon, for giving us your time, of course, and having that interesting conversation. Thank you for the contribution.
Thank you so much.
We surely do hope that these are things that maybe we won't be talking about still in the next 5 years.
Hopefully. We can move on to other things. There's so many issues to solve in this world.
Exactly.
We move away from the equal pay and equality.
Shon, ladies and gentlemen, that was Shon Osimbo, of course, a sports journalist, a journalist generally. And that brings us to the end of our second segment on today's edition of Sports Check with me, Richard Munga. We shall be having yet another segment coming up shortly, so don't go too far. See you shortly.